Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shritapadakamlam Shri Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sakana Raghunathan Tam Sadivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Harijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lita Shri Vishakanatamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Apta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Cha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna everyone. Let me share my screen. The title or the verse that we have is 2.7.1. So we start with a new chapter today. That's a new chapter or 7th chapter, second canto. So we'll start with the verse. And, please forgive me if there are some mistakes. I'll just try and read from whatever I've heard and what is written here by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Share my screen. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.7.1. Brahmo vacha yatrodayatah shrititaloddhara nya vipravat kraudim tanum shalaka yagnamayim ananta antar maharnava upagatam adidaityam tam tanstrayadim iva vajradharo dadara. Synonyms. Brahma Uvacha. Lord Brahma said, Yatra, at that time or when. Udataha, attempted. Shititala, the planet Earth. Udharanya, for the matter of lifting. Vibhrat, assumed. Kraudim, past times. Tanum, form. Shakal, total. Yagnamayim, all-inclusive sacrifices. Ananta, the unlimited. Antar, within the universe. Maha Arnave, the great Garbha ocean. Upagatam, having arrived at. Adi, the first. Daityam, demon. Tam, him. Damstraya, by the tusk. Adrim, the flying mountains. Eva, like. Vajradhara, the controller of the thunderbolts. Dadara, pierced. So we'll do the translation. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodak, the first demon, Hiranyaksh, appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Since the beginning of creation, the demons and the demigods, or the Vaishnavas, are always the two classes of living beings to dominate the planets of the universes. Lord Brahma is the first demigod, and Hiranyaksh is the first demon in this universe. Only under certain conditions do the planets float as weightless balls in the air, and as soon as these conditions are disturbed, the planets may fall down in the Garbhodak ocean, which covers half the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary systems exist. The floating of the planets in the weightless air is due to the inner constitution of the globes. And the modernized drilling of the earth to exploit oil from within is a sort of disturbance by the modern demons and can result in a greatly harmful reaction to the floating condition of the earth. A similar disturbance was created formerly by the demons headed by Hiranyaksh, the great exploiter of the gold rush. And the earth was detached from its weightless condition and fell down into the Garbhodak ocean. The Lord, as maintainer of the whole creation of the material world, therefore assumed the gigantic form of a boar with a proportionate snout and picked up the earth from within the water of Garbhodak. Sri Jayadev Goswami, the great poet, Vaishnava poet, sang as follows. Vasati dasana shikhare dharani tava lagna Shashini kalanka kaleva nimagna Keshavadrita Shukar Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare. The translation of this is, O Keshav, O Supreme Lord, who have assumed the form of a boar, O Lord, the planet Earth rested on your tusks, and it appeared like the moon engraved with spots. Such is the symptom of an incarnation of the Lord. The incarnation of the Lord is not the concocted idea of fanciful men who create an incarnation out of imagination. The incarnation of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances, like the above mentioned occasion. And the incarnation performs a task which is not even imaginable by the tiny brain of mankind. The modern creators of the many cheap incarnations may take note of the factual incarnation of the God as the gigantic boar with a suitable snout to carry the planet Earth. When the Lord appeared to pick up the earth, the demon of the name Hiranyaksh tried to create a disturbance in the methodical functions of the Lord, and therefore he was killed by being pierced by the Lord's tusk. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the demon Hiranyaksh was killed by the hand of the Lord. Therefore, his version is that after being killed by the hand of the Lord, the demon was pierced by the tusk. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms this version. Okay. So, very interesting pastime. The incarnation of the boar pastime of the Lord. So here Brahmaji is telling, Lord Brahma is telling that when the Lord assumed the form of a boar, he lifted the planet Earth, and which was drowning in the great ocean. It was drowned actually, the great ocean, because of the imbalance. So if we contextualize it a little bit to where we are at this time, Srila Prabhupada is bringing all this already here. Drilling of earth. So what, again, it's so nice to hear all this. and read so much information, so much knowledge is already provided, which our scientists are still struggling to find proofs and references and somehow prove something. But it's already there in our Bhagavatam. So here it talks of a very fine balance. Balance which is very important. So what is given here is overall this. So our universe overall is like a dome. We know, we have read through the structure of the universe and how the lower planets and the upper planets are. So what it's saying here is all that we have read in the structure of the universe, that is the upper part, the first upper half of the universe. The lower part is just the Garbhoda Kusha. So there is so much water, Garbhoda Kusha. So it's all Garbhoda Kusha there on the lower half. The upper half is where all these lower planetary system, middle planetary systems, and higher planetary systems are there. And then comes the and all these, they are all with a very delicate balance. We know there are some situations in which things start floating. Now all these planets, they are floating in that spherical dome, the top part of the dome, only because of that perfect balance which exists, and not just with Earth, but all the other planets, all the planetary systems, everything is floating with that balance. That is why our Earth has so many different minerals and different things, and that creates that perfect balance, because of which floating is successful. Now, what Srila Prabhupada is bringing in here, and which is still happening, and we are drilling the Earth, taking out all the minerals as much as we want, all these oil drilling and so drilling of so many different types. All this is happening. This is kind of this is kind of affecting the balance of the Earth, because everything is needed in the appropriate balance. Now, what Srila Prabhupada is saying is that by unplanned and so much of extraction of all these things from the Earth, it will lead to disturbance, and which will finally lead to which happens at the end of the day of Brahma, where everything ends and there's so much water, right? We have read all that. So the same thing was happening there. Now this was, I was reading one lecture yesterday to prepare for this, and Prabhu there, he was saying that this was 50 years of Lord Brahma's lifetime. Now, this was the beginning of the 51st year, and he was also, I also heard. So now, so at the end of every year, now Lord Brahma's year is, an year itself is so big, and his lifetime is 100 years of that day. At the end of every day, the destruction happens, and then at the end of year also these things happen. This was right in the middle of Lord Brahma's lifetime, and after that, so at the end of the destruction, the earth was there in the Garbhoda Ocean. Now balance had been disturbed because of indiscriminate digging or extraction of gold from Hiranyaksh. Hiranyaksh is the first demon, as Srila Prabhupada is saying. So he was extracting gold from the earth, so much so that the balance itself got disturbed, and the earth finally fell into the Garbhoda Ocean. It was drowning. So finally, Lord had to come in. He comes in the form of a boar, a giant boar. Then he picks up the earth by his tusks and puts it back into that balanced condition, because of which the earth, again, there is civilization on the earth and all that gets started. One thing which was also mentioned was just imagine how difficult is and how complicated is the life of Lord Brahma. At the end of every day, all this description happens. And the example that I was hearing was that just imagine that there is a party at home and people come in, so many people are there. For example, any party happens anywhere. And at the end of the day, everything is, everywhere. Things are at different places, and ultimately it's the housewife or whoever is taking care of the house. Just think of their situation at the end of the day. So everything is disturbed. Now they have to set up everything, either at that night or in the beginning. That itself is so challenging to us. And then this was the Lord Brahma who has to start with creation, the beginning of every day. So there's so much, his situation is so complicated. And he goes doing it every day. And we go through all this just once in a while, and we are hassled. And he has to do it all over every day, right in the beginning, so that the world goes on. So another thing which is mentioned here is after the Lord picked up so the earth and put it in that position. Now, so the Lord fought with Hiranyaksh, killed him, and then pierced him with a tusk. Is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami, they are both saying in their commentary. So this is how this boar incarnation happened. There were a lot of, this is a very famous incarnation out of the many that Lord had. But this is one of the very important ones. And we talk about this not a lot, but then this is a very major incarnation that helps Earth every time it happens, put it back into the position. Yeah, very interesting pastime. Great to read. So any other comments, any other questions? This is what I read and I heard. This is what I had to share. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Nice thing. Just having a thought when you were explaining about. Wow. I was having this thought when you were explaining about Krishna. I was trying to say something and then something else happened, so I lost.
It happens to us.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead.
No, please continue. I thought you stopped. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Let me think about it.
Got distracted with
Okay.
something.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, wonderful class. Nice beginning for the new chapter. Couple of observations, Prabhuji, not really questions. So, when Prabhupada is talking about the nice balance or the fine balance, I presume it's not just the balance of material elements, but also probably the subtle elements also. So in the process of it falling down into the Garbhodakashaya ocean and then the Lord lifting it, I think there is a lot that is not said but very subtle, in re-establishing those subtle elements. So that was one of my thoughts. It could be anything starting from establishment of dharma, lineage of disciplic succession and stuff like that. So I wanted to know your thoughts about it, Prabhuji. And then there was one more question. For some strange reason, I am forgetting it. I will bring it back after the discussion, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah, and you bring in a great point. Actually, if we notice, the same thing happens even to us. It's so important to have that balance. When the balance, even in the body, I mean, irrespective of, even if we not talk about subtle elements, even the material elements, pith, vayu, all this, if the balance disturbs, then we are not well, we fall sick. Those are very observable things. Similarly, if we don't maintain the subtle elements, then our consciousness starts falling. Eventually, I mean, the super soul in our heart, either he has to take care or we keep falling. It's a great point that you bring in. That balance is important into everything. This is an example of a pastime which is given for all of us to understand how important is the balance in life, physical life, material life, spiritual life, everywhere. You not keep doing just one single thing and expect everything to be on a straight path. But it's very important to have that balance. It's a great point, important.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji.
So I was thinking that Prabhu, I mean earlier what I was saying, when you explained about in a certain conditions, even the big objects float, right? So I mean if we apply little our, I mean maybe we have seen people, right, floating in a water, right? So I mean it's not that they're like, I mean, I mean, I have seen it myself. I mean people are just floating in a water for like hours together, right? So in a lake, I mean, how is it possible? I mean, if I cannot do it, I will sing, right? I will not be able to do that because it's so, I mean, heavy weight. So, but then people are able to do it, creating certain conditions within that body, right? So, I mean, same thing the Lord is doing using, I mean, Brahma is doing with using so much technology. How he's able to float big planets, right? So I was just thinking, Prabhu, relating with that. So the other thing stuck to me when Prabhupada, when you are reading this purport. So the incarnation of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances like the above mentioned occasion, and the incarnation performs a task which is not even imaginable by this tiny brain of the mankind. Right? How can a boar with tusks can lift the planet Earth? Right? So in a normal sense, right? We will not be able to imagine even whatever logic that we use with our brain. Right? So that is so big. Right? So that means the incarnation of the boar has to be much bigger because the tusks itself is lifting the
Earth, yeah, like a small ball.
yeah. That's right. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, I think in the session that Amrendra Prabhu had, the seminar that he had, he also spoke about the boar incarnation. He touched upon it. He talked about the size just to give some kind of indicator. Yeah, I mean, we cannot imagine all this. Our thoughts are limited. Very small. Vaman Avatar, all this. I mean, he measured, he put one thing on the entire universe. And we cannot even imagine how big that was. So,
Yeah, one other thing I was just remembering, even if it is a boar, the Lord appears in the form of a boar we worship. Right? So, very nice. So he is also very beautiful. Right? I think somewhere in the later verses it is there. Right? So he's still attractive.
uh, yeah, amazing.
Prabhuji, I was actually listening, sometime back, maybe in our temple itself, Nityananda Prana Prabhu or somebody talking about the boar, Varaha Avatara. The reason why Lord chose the Varaha Avatara was basically because the Garbhodaka ocean is so dark and, filled with different kinds of, dirt or pollution, whatever that is. So any other body form could not go there. So that's the reason that was mentioned. I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly, but that's why the Lord chose the boar form. So boar is used to go underwater, even in murky conditions, and do what it wants to do. Remembering, something.
No, very nice. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Very nice class, Prabhu. Very scientific. You make it. You know, especially the part about the imbalance created in the Earth's, orbital motion. And when we think about it, there are so many such a big, deep, bores created, wells created on the surface of the earth even now in the name of diamond digging, gold digging, or even simply digging for stones, the quarries they have. Really, so it is so delicate balance that people are aggressively, disturbing, and also in the atmospheric, the ozone hole created, that is itself sufficient to bring about the ruin of the climate imbalance. And so humans are basically very demoniac and disturbing whatever the blessings that have been given to by the Lord. That is one point I had thought. Then your example about at the end of Lord Brahma's day, every time he finds everything dismantled, just like at the end of a party, how we struggle to. That was a very nice one too, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, I remember the second part of my observation, like, for example, the modern scientists claim that they can create life, and what they do is they put everything into a petri dish, and they, give a, what do you call, electric shock or a lightning like thing, and they believe, some amino acids are created and thus life will be created. So, in spite of doing all of that, till date, they have not been able to create life. So, that fine balance that, Prabhupada and even Brahmaji is talking about is not achievable by humans. What to speak about, no living entities, including, scientists, can really achieve that fine balance, and so just wanted to bring that point out. Thank you.
Great point.
Oh, sorry, Prabhu, I interrupted Radha Kunja Bihari Prabhu's discussion.
No, Mataji.
Sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
No, Mataji, you didn't interrupt. I had stopped actually.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
That's
Krishna,
all.
Mataji.
Okay. So if there are no more comments or observations, then probably we are good to close the class. Okay. Second,